Most people think stiffness, joint pain, and poor mobility are just normal parts of getting older. But that belief is one of the biggest reasons people stop moving well long before they need to. The truth is, the human body is designed to move freely in many directions, and when it stops doing that, problems slowly begin to appear. Hips tighten, backs ache, shoulders stiffen, and simple daily movements start to feel harder than they should. The good news is that in most cases, the body does not need complicated routines, expensive equipment, or hours of stretching to feel better again. What it needs is the right movements, done consistently, that remind the joints how they were meant to move. Today I want to walk you through 5 simple exercises that, together, can address the majority of mobility problems people struggle with. These movements target the areas where stiffness and pain most often begin, which are the hips, the lower back, and the upper back. If you spend long hours sitting, if bending over feels uncomfortable, if standing up from the floor feels like a struggle, or if your body just feels tight and restricted, this routine can make a real difference over time. Nothing here is rushed, extreme, or aggressive. Each movement is about control, awareness, and teaching your body to move smoothly again. We begin with an exercise many people have never heard of, but physical therapists often consider it one of the most powerful tools for restoring healthy hip movement. This movement challenges balance, strength, and mobility at the same time, which is exactly how the hips are designed to work in real life. You start by standing on one leg, with a slight bend in your knee. From there, you hinge forward at your hips while extending your other leg straight behind you, creating a long line from your head through your spine and into your raised leg. Your torso and leg should form something close to a straight line, like the top of a letter T. Once you are in that position, the real work begins. Without letting your standing knee collapse or your balance fall apart, you slowly rotate your hips open toward the ceiling and then rotate them back down toward the floor. The movement is slow and controlled, and your core stays gently engaged the entire time. At first, even a few rotations may feel challenging, and that is completely normal. This exercise wakes up small, stabilizing muscles around the hip that many people have not used properly in years. If balance feels difficult at the beginning, holding onto a wall or a chair is perfectly fine. The goal is not to prove anything, but to move with good control. Over time, as your balance improves, you can try doing the movement without support. What makes this exercise so effective is that it moves the hip through rotation while the body is supporting weight, which is something that rarely happens during everyday sitting or walking. When the hips lose this rotational ability, the lower back often ends up doing work it was never meant to do, which leads to tightness and pain. By practicing this movement regularly, you help restore proper hip function, reduce unnecessary stress on the lower back, and make everyday movements like walking and bending feel smoother and easier. After opening up the hips with rotation and balance, it is time to move into a position that restores mobility through the entire lower body, while also addressing the upper back and shoulders. This movement is based on a deep squat, which is a natural resting position for the human body, but one that many adults have lost due to years of chair sitting. You begin by standing with your feet about shoulder width apart, with your toes turned slightly outward. Slowly lower yourself down into a squat, keeping your heels flat on the ground and your chest as upright as possible. If you cannot reach a full deep squat at first, that is not a problem. You simply go as low as you can while maintaining control and comfort. Once you are in the bottom position, you place one hand on the ground for balance. With the other arm, you slowly reach up toward the ceiling, allowing your upper back to rotate as your eyes follow your hand. You pause for a breath, then return the hand to the ground and switch sides. This movement opens the hips, ankles, and thoracic spine at the same time, which are areas that often become stiff together. Keeping the heels down is important, because lifting onto the toes shifts stress into the knees and reduces the effectiveness of the exercise. If balance is difficult, holding onto a stable object like a counter or door frame can help. After a few minutes, most people notice their hips feeling looser, their ankles moving more freely, and their upper back opening in a way that feels relieving rather than forced. If the deep squat position feels too challenging at first, You can place a small towel or wedge under your heels to make it more accessible. Over time, as mobility improves, you may find that you no longer need the support. This movement is especially valuable because it reconnects different parts of the body that often stop working together, helping restore natural movement patterns that were lost over years of sitting. The next movement may look simple, but it has a powerful effect on posture and lower back comfort. This exercise targets the hip flexors, which are muscles that become chronically shortened from prolonged sitting. When these muscles stay tight, they pull the pelvis forward, increasing the arch in the lower back and creating constant strain that many people experience as chronic pain. This stretch helps reverse that pattern. To perform it, you position yourself in a lunge with your back knee on the ground and the top of your back foot resting against a couch, chair, or wall. Your front foot stays flat on the floor, with your knee bent at about a right angle. The most important part of this movement is posture. Instead of arching the lower back and leaning forward, you gently tuck the pelvis under and squeeze the glute muscle of the back leg. This shifts the stretch into the front of the hip and thigh, where it belongs. As you hold the position, imagine a string gently pulling the top of your head upward, keeping your spine tall and aligned. You hold the stretch while breathing slowly and deeply, allowing the muscles to relax rather than resist. Over time, this movement can help restore the pelvis to a more neutral position, reduce pressure on the lower back, and improve how you stand and walk throughout the day. After addressing the hips and lower body, attention shifts to the upper back, an area that often becomes stiff and immobile due to hours spent looking at screens and hunching forward. The thoracic spine is designed to rotate, but when it loses that ability, the neck and lower back often take on extra stress, leading to discomfort in those areas. This next movement gently restores that lost rotation. You begin by lying on your side, with your knees bent and stacked on top of each other. Both arms extend straight out in front of you, palms together. From this position, you slowly lift the top arm and rotate it open, following your hand with your eyes as it moves in an arc toward the floor behind you. The key is to keep your knees stacked and still, allowing the rotation to come from the upper back, rather than the hips or lower back. You pause briefly in the open position, feeling the stretch across your chest and the rotation through your mid-back, then slowly return the arm to the starting position. The movement is slow and controlled, with an emphasis on breathing and awareness. If your knees try to separate, placing a pillow or block between them can help maintain stability. This exercise is especially helpful for people who experience stiffness between the shoulder blades, rounded shoulders, or difficulty turning the upper body smoothly. The final movement focuses once again on the hips, but this time specifically on internal and external rotation, which are often the most restricted movements in adults. Many people notice this restriction when they struggle to sit on the floor, cross their legs, or get up and down comfortably. This exercise helps restore that missing range of motion, while also building control. You begin by sitting on the floor with one leg in front of you and one leg behind you, both bent at right angles. This position alone may feel like a stretch for many people. Sitting tall with the chest lifted is important, and if that feels difficult, sitting on a cushion or block can help. After holding the position for a few breaths, you gently lift both knees slightly and rotate them to the opposite side, switching into the same position on the other side. The movement is slow, controlled, and guided by the hips rather than the hands. The goal is to build strength and mobility together, not to force the movement. Over time, this exercise can make ground-based movements feel more natural and reduce compensations throughout the body that often lead to discomfort. When these 5 exercises are combined into a routine, they create a simple yet powerful system for restoring mobility. The entire sequence takes about 15 to 20 minutes and can be done daily or several times per week. This is not about sweating or pushing through pain, but about moving with intention and consistency. When practiced regularly, these movements help the body feel looser, stronger, and more capable, allowing you to move through daily life with less stiffness and more confidence.